Welcome to the final installment and reveal of my Pro Street 67 GTO 4-in-1 group builds for Blue Ox's Street Machine group build, Woody's Rock and Roll on Wheels group build, Lucas E's 67-72 GTO group build, and last but not least, NYS Modeling's Pro Street group build. Whew, that's a lot of group builds. I've completed a popular kit bash of combining the AMT MPC 67 GTO with the AMT 67 Chevelle Pro Street kit. In the last installment, I showed how some simple details really made the interior come alive, and mentioned I'd show a few more tips and hope those can improve your next model. I had shown some of the colors I was considering in a previous video, and now it was time to start that journey. After the primer was wet sanded, a base coat of Tamiya TS21 Gold was applied, and then the body was set aside several days to gas out. So I painted my 3D printed wheels. The outer rims were sprayed Revell Chrome spray, and the centers were painted Tamiya TS84 Gold. Some brown panel wash was applied to the center of each spoke. Then some black panel line accents the area around each lug nut. Next it was time to spray some candy. I strayed a bit from my spoon tests. First I applied a couple light coats of Tamiya TS74 Clear Red to set as a base for the Mr. Color Deep Clear Red to create the tone I had in mind. Before applying any red, I masked a 1/64 inch pinstripe where the factory stripe is positioned. After the paint flashed, I removed the tape to reveal a gold pinstripe. I wasn't done though. I wanted a two-tone, so the body got masked again, and several coats of Alclad Candy Purple were lightly applied above the upper character line. That was all sealed with 2K clear from Splash Paints. I was not happy with the application of the clear, as it did not level as well as it has on past models. I also wound up with a lot of debris in the paint. It just sometimes happens. To remedy this, extra time was needed to polish the finish. Many hours of wet sanding were needed to level the clear, and the final polishing was done with Wizards products. These are highly recommended by many of the best modelers. And after all the polishing, a glass smooth finish was produced. The next step was the tedious application of all of the chrome trim. Bare metal foil was used for the window trim, but I used Hasegawa chrome finish for the rocker trim, as it is very chrome-like on the real car. The kit does not have the wheel well trim engraved, and I really didn't want to scribe it. So I tried a technique where thin tape is applied to the outside edge of the trim. Bare metal foil is then applied over the tape, which is used as a guide to cut the foil. The tape is then peeled away, leaving the trimmed wheel well behind. One thing I overlooked during final assembly is that the front of the radiator is noticeable behind the grille and bumper assembly. A quick fix is some Detail Master radiator screen applied to some electrical tape. This was then glued in place. Another issue I had during final assembly is that I plan to use the chassis screw bosses to glue the back of the chassis in place. One was shorter than the other. A couple of pieces of evergreen strip corrected this. I also sign and date the inside of my models just before final assembly. Sometimes a giant clamp is needed to make sure nothing moves while the epoxy cures. Let's get that off and see how this one finally came out. So here it is, my Pro Street 1967 GTO, completed just in time for the deadline, except NYS's. I have to say I'm pretty pleased with this one. It looks nearly exactly how I hoped it would turn out when I first began this project. The style I was going after was sort of a Pro Street 2.0. It's not a race car, and it's not a full tilt show car. Just something you could drive to a Cars and Coffee, and draw the crowd. One of my personal challenges with this build was to include all the stock trim and keep any modification in style with an original GTO. The photo etch detail set from Model Car Garage certainly helped with that. I designed that set many years ago, and it was satisfying to finally get to use it and find all those little parts fit quite well. As seen in a previous video, I 3D printed a 455 Pontiac engine and adapted a custom tri-power intake with air cleaner. The valve covers have some extra photo etched GTO emblems for some style. I added just enough extra detail to make it look convincing, and even went the extra mile to add a dipstick and a little bit of alternator wiring. Underneath is pretty basic, which falls in line with something that could be driven. Instead of getting dragged down with minute details, I tried to focus on what is there to look clean and functional. The AMT MPC 67 GTO has really gotten a bad rap, but if you test fit and take the time to correct its shortcomings, an awesome scale model can be the result. Sure, it helps to kit bash and add aftermarket or 3D printed parts, but that's one of the best parts of this hobby, the ability to customize and make it your own. I tip my hat to all those that have joined in and completed models for these group builds. And speaking of that, I've cleared the bench to join a few more, so stay tuned. Also, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. You all know what to do, because I have all kinds of model car stories to tell. Thanks for watching.